Hello.
Hello there.
Hi. How are you?
I am so good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Doing really well.
Well, thank you for joining us. Right. So, I
Yeah.
don't know if you heard my little intro. So, my wife and I watched the first season. I mean, so this stuff, my biggest guilty pleasure has always been reality shows. And I say guilty pleasure. It's not even a guilty pleasure anymore. Everybody freaking watches them. If you say you don't, you're lying. There's a reason they're so popular, right? But being a psychology major and doing what I'm doing, I love to study human beings and just see how those little brains operate and
Mm,
throw them into unique, stressful situations and let the cameras roll. So I remember way back in the day, I don't know how old you are, I'm probably dating myself a little bit, but the very original Real World,
yeah.
New York came out, and I just remember being like these are actually real people, and we're getting their real reactions, and there was fighting, and there was, sex drives, and all the normal things that humans go into the bathroom. Fascinating stuff, and now here we are. We've evolved, right? And these shows really took off, and it's interesting to see now. It's kind of like you got to keep kind of, all right, well, now we got to put an even crazier thing into it, and stressfulness to the situation, and they just kind of keep up in the ante. And yours is like the perfect example of, I can't imagine a more high octane environment than the one that you were in. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your experience on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. I'm excited to dive in. I'm like, now I want to know like what your perspective and like perception of the show is too.
I'll share that. Yeah, why don't you? I've been talking, so why don't you talk, and then we'll get into a little bit of
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those of you who have not watched it or just need a reminder, so Love is Blind. Essentially, there were couples that met behind a wall. We cultivated emotional connections based on, the voice and the vulnerability and that type of thing. We never saw the person. We got engaged while still being separated by the wall. And then we had a big reveal, and for each couple. So we had the big reveal. We were then again proposed, I guess, solidified our proposal and our engagement. Spent a week in Mexico where we kind of did like like a honeymoon, but like before the wedding kind of thing, so that we could see how we traveled.
I am so sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay.
The worst, but I just really am curious, because I remember when I watched the show, that period where you got to know each other, and then all of a sudden you see each other. Can we just pause there for a moment, and can I get your kind of like a little look inside Kelly Chase's brain on that experience? So you're talking to all these people behind a wall.
Yeah.
All you can hear is their voice. And is that legit? I mean, like, you've never seen them, nothing other than you're listening to their voice, correct?
Never had seen them.
Okay. Right. I mean, the show would kind of,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
even if they like were trying to like make the show better, like behind the scenes, that wouldn't make it better. I feel
Right.
like it's got to be the full price. Okay. So I buy that. Right. And then, so you're talking to people, and then did you have connections with multiple people, or is it just the one guy that you ended up with?
Yeah, I actually did have connections with a couple of people. So it was essentially like speed dating. It was set up like that. And as you kind of were connecting more and more with people, your dates got longer because people were being eliminated from your process, more or less. So, our first date was 7 minutes with each of us it was 15 women and 15 men. So we each had 7 minutes with each man. And then I think the longest date was like an hour and 45 minutes that we had like with one person. And we may have had that twice a day, at the very, like the last 2 days, maybe it may have been like that. It was intense. I was one of those people I'll back up a little bit. We filmed in 2018, like the end of 2018. So October, November 2018 was when we filmed. A year prior, I totally kind of shifted my life and started doing a bunch of the personal development and spiritual, like I had a huge spiritual awakening, let's put it that way, over the last 4 years. And with that being said, the whole like concept of the show obviously was brilliant for me because I was like, oh, this is interesting. But just diving into I didn't want to have surface level conversations. Like I understood what the concept of the show was. And it's like, you only have a certain amount of time to like make connections with these people and see if they actually would be, you know, eligible to be a fiance. So I mean, I feel like I'm pretty self-disclosing anyways, and I've always been pretty vulnerable and open of a person, but I chose to be even more so that I could really get in and have those more connecting conversations. So yeah, I connect with a handful of guys. I don't know if you're familiar with Giannina and Damien, that couple. Damien actually him and I had made a pretty strong connection as well, but we both had different chemistries for our people. So he had a stronger chemistry for Giannina, I had a stronger chemistry for Kenny, and that's why we obviously chose who we chose. Yeah.
Emotional, obviously.
Yes. Yeah, emotional connection. Yeah.
No
emotional chemistry.
no physical yet. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so you were asking about the like reveal itself.
Yes. So you got this emotional connection, and this is really, I mean, the heart of the show, right? It's like how much, it's kind of like the nurture versus nature debate in terms of like, can you really fall in love with somebody based on personality? Well, I think we all know the answer. Personality alone, no.
Yeah. No.
You can fall in love with their personality and become, but you gotta have, I would think, well, but I'll let you.
Yeah.
Big reveal.
Yeah. Yeah, so our big reveal, I was shaking. Like my toes were shaking. The entire being of my existence was shaking. Yeah. Because I mean, granted, like, yeah, you're like engaged to this person, but you have never met them. So you really, obviously you don't know what they look like. And then it's like, oh my God, like, what if I'm not physically attracted to this person? Because yes, it is a part of the factor. Like I get it. I mean, I've obviously dated guys that maybe I wasn't initially physically attracted to, but then as I cultivated a friendship and got to know their personality, then I started to be more physically attracted to them. And I was like, oh my God, they're the cutest human. But we didn't have that, you know, like I just got to strictly know their personality. And it was just like, fingers crossed that I'm actually somewhat physically attracted to this person, because if I am somewhat, then because of their personality, they're going to be like the cutest human again. Like they're going to be super sexy and everything.
And was there a part of you that thought like, well, the show's not going to totally screw me? I mean, they're going to get decent looking people, or were you like, it could go anyway?
Well, it's not that I even had that thought. I know some of the girls did. They were like, what if they're like, you know, plotting against us kind of thing. But I was like, okay, I don't think so. But my thought was, prior to that show, and again, I know I just said I did date some people that maybe have not have been like, you know, I wasn't super physically attracted to from the beginning. However, I found myself dating and being attracted to more very good looking men. So I had already, I guess, just like had this like, I mean, if they're just not attractive, like, and I'm not attracted to them, I don't know if it's going to work. So I don't know. Like, I didn't think they were going to like put, you know, what I would say as someone I was not attracted to in the mix, but
you're right. You have no idea. Okay. So right.
But I had no idea.
Taking, and then the reveal happens. Take us to that moment.
Yeah. That moment, again, like I said, I was shaking. Our reveal got postponed twice before we actually had the reveal. So
painful.
The pain, the anxiety, it was so crazy. So of course, like I'm standing there about like the walls about to open, the doors are about to open, and I hear someone behind me like come in the room, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, we like are having like a camera difficulty or whatever. And I was like, okay, I can breathe. And then like 20 minutes later, they get me set back up and I start shaking, not at the same level, but I was shaking again. And someone comes in from the behind and they're like, oh, we're really sorry. We have to like break for lunch. And I was like, what?
Oh my God.
So
I mean, that's like,
it's only
there's
2
countries
hours
that don't put you through so much torture when they're trying to get information out of you.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, so we broke for lunch, and now I'm like, okay. My nerves had calmed down a little bit at that point. Like I was still shaking and stuff, but it wasn't as aggressive as when I first got up to the doors. But anyways, yeah, so they opened the doors and I was attracted. I mean, I'll be just completely transparent. Yeah. I was not like starstruck, like, wow, you know, like, I mean, he's a very attractive man. That was just my, you know, that's just me. So
do you have a type like before this, or did you date all types of guys, or was kind of like you were hoping for certain type of hair, eyes, height,
um
build?
I think that I had dated maybe two guys that were like the blonde hair, blue eyed type, but all the rest of the guys that I've ever dated are like brunette.
Got it.
So yeah, it just no. So I don't necessarily have like a yeah. Brunettes are more my type. I'm gonna say it. They are. They're just more my type.
That's the majority, then that's what your heart's telling you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep, got it.
exactly. So and yeah, and Kenny's blonde haired, blue eyed.
But
But
like you said,
again, you
not
know,
insurmountable, not insurmountable at first.
no, no. So, but it was fine, you know, like we got there. And I think what was the most nerve wracking is like, it's the two of us and like literally 30 people, like the whole crew and production and like all the cameras and everything. And we're like, turn our heads, you know, but he kissed me. It was funny because he kissed me and it was a very passionate kiss. And I was like, oh. And like my level of like attraction like instantly like went up for him.
Ah.
It was interesting, yeah. And I mean, so then we had like gone to Mexico and we hadn't seen any of the other couples or the other guys at this point. They hadn't seen any of the other girls. So when we go to Mexico, we then are revealed to all the other couples.
So you didn't
And
meet the other, oh no, the girls you'd met.
yeah, the girls I had met, but
You guys were
yeah,
all
all
in
the
the room.
guys.
Yeah.
So me having another connection with like Damien. So I met Damien while he was engaged to Giannina on the other end. And, you know, so it was interesting. I mean, I remember though sitting on the beach our first night, like with all the couples. And I remember looking at Kenny and I was like, yeah, this is my person. Like I mean, I was like I thought like Cameron's a very good looking man. He's like stunning. But I still like just because we had made such that emotional connection, I was like, this is my person. Like yeah, like it's all a good great package now. Like I got the attractiveness, everything's good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it was off to a good start.
Yeah.
And so, right, I mean, I won't make you go through the whole thing, and I want to spend a good amount of time, obviously, talking about what you're doing right now, which
Yeah.
for the show. But this stuff's so interesting to me personally, and
I mean,
I guess I eat this stuff up, so we got to spend some time on it. Okay, so right, so then you kind of get into the season, and you're hanging out, right? They're just basically just it's putting you together and saying, all right, you know, no TV, no outside stuff, right? Just you got to get to know each other, just you two, right?
yeah, so when we got back from Mexico, actually we were able, like they gave us our phones back. They had us live with each other for like, I guess it was 3.5 weeks. I guess 3 or 4 weeks we lived with each other. And yeah, we were like back to the real world. And that was the thing. It's like we want to test you being back in the real world because now you have temptation. Now there are other people. You could go to a restaurant and there's other guys or girls, you know, and like you're actually back to that and you can have conversations with your friends and family too, right? So now we're being submerged into that. I will say though, I mean, besides like Kenny was going back to work at this point, I was running my own business, so I was like sitting at home doing my business. But
oh, so you okay? So
yeah,
you're
so
actually
he was
working in the real world.
yeah, so he was like able to go back to work and everything. But I mean, it's not like we were filming half that time too, so or more than half that time. So it's not like we were like fully like submerging ourselves in like public crowds, you know, so that we could have the ultimate temptation, I guess. But still, I mean, I remember Kenny and I went out like one night on like an off camera, like an off filming day, and went to a bar and had some drinks, and I still like. I was just being very socially aware of things, and I'm like, yeah, like I like him, like I want to be with him,
Right.
like I'm in this, you know. So it was interesting.
And then okay, so obviously, so I mean, right, we'll kind of get to the end. So, you guys, it didn't work out, right? I mean, honestly, I'm going by memory. I didn't even look this stuff up.
Yeah.
I believe I remember. You got to the day of the wedding, right? So then it gets to the point where it's like, all right, are you guys going through with this or not? And you get to the day of the wedding, and if I remember correctly, everybody, whether they were planning on going through it or not, had to get to the day of the wedding, right? Like had to get dressed up and whatnot and actually go through the motions. And then the person, you know, either or can decide, yep, we're doing it, or no. And I believe you said
No.
no. Okay. So What was that? What happened there?
I kept telling production, I mean, leading up to our wedding day, I just kept saying, I get it, like he's checking off all the boxes, like the personality, our families even got along, like literally it was like weird how much they got along. Like the similarities between my dad, like our fathers too, it was like so really weird. But I just kept saying, I get it, like he's checking off all the boxes. I said, but something still doesn't feel right. Like it's like my head and my heart are not connecting. And I don't know. Like I don't know if I can do this. Like I don't think I can marry this man. But like as the weeks progressed and we got closer and closer to the wedding day, I mean, I strongly was considering marrying him. I really was. Like I was like, wait a second. I mean, what if I'm just like sabotaging? Like, what if it's just like my own internal like insecurities or fears about love and relationships? And maybe I'm like sabotaging this. But you know, I think Kenny and I were on the same page with some things. So I just felt like my no is going to be okay.
To me, it's like, it's an interesting experiment. And obviously they're doing it again. And
Yeah.
right, we can't draw 100% conclusions. But to me, I remember what I got out of that when I finished watching the season was like what you just said is exactly, it's how humans operate, and you can't really cheat the system, which is like, it's either there or it's not. And like, what does it mean to be there? Like, there's just so many things that go into that, and just little things like you said, he checks all the boxes. I mean, the amount of times people say that, but yet there's still just something, you got to have that something. And even though like that, you know, that lust stuff, or you know, and I'm not necessarily saying that's what it all was, but you know,
Right.
that like wanting to rip each other's clothes off is going to wear off for everybody at
Right.
some point, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar from what you do. Like, there's that pheromone, and you're in that honeymoon phase, they call it, and then all of a sudden that starts to kind of, you know, go away, and then it's like, all right, well, do I basically see the world the same way as this person? Do we agree on the big things? Do we get along? Do they make me laugh? Like all these things become more important, but you still, I feel like, need to have that other whatever it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, now in hindsight, I mean, while you're in it, you're like, I don't know what's going on, you know, but like now in hindsight, it really, like I said, it's like my head and my heart weren't connecting. I think that was exactly it. It's like my emotions were so high. My intelligence was like all over the place. And I was like, there were things that I want, like, this is kind of how production was like, or, you know, my producer was asking me, she was like, yeah, but there are people that like, you know, they'll go and like get eloped or, you know, they'll go to like Vegas and like get married after knowing each other for like 5 days and then they're together for 15 years, like whatever. Like there's so many different conditions, right, as to like what happens with people's relationships. But I kept saying like, but I want like a bachelorette party with my friends. Like I want a bachelorette, because we did a bachelorette party with like all the girls from the show. Like that's how it was. I mean, we had a couple of our like good friends, but regardless, I was like, and I want to have like, my mom had surgery, so she was not able to come watch me try on wedding dresses. It would have been like hard for her to do that. So luckily my sister came with me, but still I'm like, I haven't like planned every detail of my future wedding, but like not having my mom there was not a part of that. Like she needs to be there.
Yeah.
So there were just certain things that I like wanted, and I kept saying, I'm like, I want a wedding shower. I want this, I want this, I want this. And we don't have enough time.
But I would venture to guess that that's not the reason you called off. I'm sure that those.
Well, yeah, no.
But
no.
Right, you wouldn't, if you were truly like, this is the guy. You know,
totally.
You can almost like be like, well, we'll have a second wedding. I'll have a second bachelorette party.
Right, exactly. And that's what production was, you know, trying to pull out of me, was like, that shit, like that stuff doesn't matter. And I'm like, but it does.
No, I get it. So, okay, so what is your relationship now? So he kind of knew. I'm trying to remember, on the show, did they make it look like he was a little bit more devastated than he was?
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. That's okay. And somebody actually, while I'm on that real quick, somebody asked the question, is any of it scripted?
No, it's not scripted. No, it was not.
But they're going to manipulate. All reality shows are going to manipulate it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would say, we may have been encouraged to talk about a particular topic
Right.
but nothing was scripted. Like they may have been like, hey, talk about like if you're gonna have kids, and so we talked about
Yeah. So right, and okay, and then and by the way, are you familiar with Eliminate?
Eliminate, yeah.
Eliminate. I did Eliminate way back in the day.
Oh my
Not
god.
there was a blind date show, but the Eliminate was the one where you had the picker, which I was the picker, and then you had three suitors or whatever. So I
right.
and you go each stage before the commercial break is like a leg of the date, and you eliminate one, each stage.
Yes, I remember.
I mean, so this is all flooding back memories to that experience, and it was very similar. I remember number one, like, right, it wasn't scripted, but they definitely encouraged me. And one of the things they tried to encourage me to do was to talk about sex and like just like keep pushing, like talking about sex and stuff. And I was very uncomfortable with it, and I did it a little bit, and then I remember like the producer, similar to yours, like came to me and was like, "Hey, Will, we thought you were." I'll never forget this. They're like, "We thought you were like a fun, cool guy. Like you're kind of being a little bit like reserved here." I'm like, shit ain't gonna work with me. Kelly.
Right.
Whatever her name was. All of a sudden, she's got your name. It's not gonna work. Don't even try it. I was like, I am fun and I am awesome, and I don't need to talk about disgusting things that my family would be embarrassed about me. And so that's what I did, and I just did my own thing. But certainly, they were pushing, and this was towards the end of Eliminate. In all fairness, when they were, I think ratings were starting to go down a little bit, and they were like, we need to spice it up, right? So the producer had a ton of pressure from the network, like get them all to talk about sex and get them wasted, which is basically kind of how they did it. So, but I also remember the other part of it was that the person I ended up picking, like I knew him instantly. Like I went through the motions, and I felt like I had to say certain things to, let people down. But the one I picked, as soon as I saw all three, I was like, that girl.
Yeah.
Actually, it was four.
Four girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
All right. So after this thing, after you had this experience, so did you guys keep in touch? Like, what's your relationship now?
Yeah, I mean, well, he's engaged, so he's getting married in a few months, I think, or later this year. But yeah, I mean, we are super respectful of each other and cordial, like wish each other the best. I mean, I will say, like, after, we had a conversation at one point saying, if this doesn't work out, like, yes, it's a big deal, but like we have started a relationship, and maybe we will continue that relationship. So, but it was, it did not go that way on his terms. I mean, he called that off, and I didn't really understand. I was really hurt. I was really in pain because I felt like I was able to compartmentalize like my feelings in relationship with him and production. And I think that he just included me into production. He was done. He was over it. He needed to get back to the reunion.
Sorry, I missed the reunion you're talking about.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we had conversation. So we filmed the reunion, when the show was airing. So it was a year and a half, almost a year and a half after. So, I mean, like when we got done filming the original part of the season back in 2018, yeah, we had like kind of talked like, oh, maybe we'll like date, but it wasn't. He was just like, I'm not there. Like, I can't do that. And he was self-aware. And, in hindsight, and I've shared this with him as well as like, I think E! News or whatever, but I was like, it was painful because I felt like I was getting rejected, and versus me being like, no, because I'm in love with you, I want, this is painful. It was the pain of the rejection that was hurting the most.
Well, and that's another great point, which is, that's another human nature, universal principle that people, I think we get caught up in the ego side. We're as natural creatures, we're ego driven. And it's very easy to get caught up in the ego side of it, even if you don't necessarily want to be with somebody. It's like, well, they don't want to be with me, right? And that's why you got these people that try to write books on like how to pick up women, and there's tricks you can use to sort of make yourself look more attractive, to kind of put a veil and the perception. But at the end of the day, even if he had wanted to be with you, maybe it would have worked out, maybe it wouldn't. But the people have to be compatible. Like
Yes.
that's just a short term sort of get them together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's funny because I'll have people comment like, no, I mean, I still, obviously we're talking about Love is Blind now, but I still create Love is Blind content, for my social media. And I still talk about Love is Blind because it was such an integral part of my story. I mean, weeks after we stopped filming Love is Blind was the first time I had invested in a mindset coach. And that's why I became a mindset coach, because
Perfect
this girl
pivot. Let's
changed my life.
All right, so let's talk about that. I was just about to move into that stuff. We did
Yeah.
I think it was a good little recap of you have to show for Love is Blind, but that stuff's fascinating. We got into some of these elements we'll probably talk about in terms of just kind of the way the brain works and operates and how we see things. So mindset, right? So you're all in the self-love, confidence. You've overcome a ton of personal challenges.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned body image insecurities, financial debt, which I think is very common for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And good for you for proactively being like, I don't want to just feel this way anymore. So tell us about how this journey started. Sounds like was the first step hiring a mindset coach?
Yeah. So, I mean, to relate to everyone, although we're not aware of this most of the time, is, we go into let me go do this because they're not aware that they actually need to feel their feelings and like process their emotions and like grieve the thing. So we're like, yeah, let's just like go do this and that. So coming out of the show, I was like working, but not, because we were filming for 7 weeks. So I was like, you know what? I need to like hire a business and mindset coach and just go all in on my business. And it was funny because the 4 months that I worked with this girl, she gave me the strategy I needed, and that was great. But like the mindset work and the shifts and just the transformation that I had in those 4 months, I was like, this is something I didn't know I ever needed. Didn't even know it existed. Like, holy cow. And I mean, now I'm like I've been studying it now for 3 years. So I'm like, I'm very aware of when I'm doing things, looking for external validation, trying to avoid my own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And and there are times like I still am a human and I still do those things, but I'm more aware of it now. And I know the tools of how to not do it and actually sit with my feelings and listen and communicate with myself, and so that I can actually heal and process and share those tools with other people and help them do it too.
So, well, let's talk about some of those things. So, like, 10,000 foot view, what would you say is the biggest shift that you've had in your mindset? And no, so that I have these 5 core areas that I consider like you've got to continually grow in and develop good habits in order to become your best self. And then these 5 cores. Mindset is number 1, and it's the most important, because if you don't have your mindset working for instead of against you, you're screwed. I use this term, I call it a growth owner versus a fixed victim. And a growth owner is somebody that basically sees the world as like, okay, I was born a certain way, but that I can overcome any challenge. I maybe have certain quote unquote weaknesses or things that I'm not as exceptionally good at. I'll figure out how to outsource those, work with others, whatever, to be able to minimize those. And I'll focus on my strengths, those things I'm awesome at. And I know that I'm capable of kicking ass, taking names, and doing anything that I want. And it's just only a matter of time before I get there. Obstacles are temporary roadblocks. I'm going to give fear the finger, yada, yada, yada. Versus the fixed victim that's like, I was born with a broken mind. There's not really much I can do about it. And woe is me. Maybe, I'll get a bone thrown at me and I'll win the lottery or something one day. But chances are my life's just going to suck for the rest of it. And, and obviously there's spectrums in between that. That's kind of, but I feel like the majority of people, I don't know how you feel, are on that below the line of more towards that victim mindset. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, I think, kind of what I said earlier about, was it me thinking I'm like sabotaging, like a lot of times it's like we do that because our joy, our happiness has like always been taken away from us to some degree. Even when you're 5 years old and you're jumping on the couch and your parents are like, stop jumping on the couch. You're like, I'm just having fun,
Right.
It's even the smallest situations like that. But then obviously can be, you're in a loving relationship, then all of a sudden your person starts like physically abusing you. It's like, so it can be extreme also. But yeah, so I feel like people are so in this mindset, like it's too good to be true. That'll never happen for me. It's obviously, it goes back to your worth, interpreting what we have heard, seen, or shown growing up, that maybe, yeah, someone did not say, you're not enough, or you're not worthy of that, or you don't deserve that. But how our brain, our mind interpret it is, I'm not deserving of that. I'm not worthy of that. I'll never have that, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not enough. So that's the trajectory. And that's, you know, our thoughts create our results. Our thoughts create our behaviors, which create our results. So therefore, if we're constantly thinking these things, and we have 10,000 thoughts that run through our mind every single day that we're not even aware of. And so if 90% of those thoughts, our subconscious, unconscious thoughts, are, I'm not worthy, I'm undeserving, of course you're getting the results that you're getting, because your behaviors are reflective of that.
100% agree. Right. Your thoughts become, I have this thing, I call it the equation of life, which is your belief system, your thoughts, plus your repeated actions, plus time equals who you will become. And to me, it's like, okay, whatever those thoughts are that are running through, are you, whether you're a growth owner or a fixed victim, as I call it, you know, and, you know, that's going to basically be like, all right, I'm going to take this action, and this action is going to then compound into this, and then it's going to project my life, and I'm going to build momentum. Or, you know, from the victim side, like you're saying, I'm not worthy, or what, you know, why would I think I could do something like that? Then you don't take action, right. And then that compounds, and you kind of get stuck in your failure loop, and you're not making any progress because your fear and your insecurities are kind of getting the better of you, and then it just actually just makes it worse and worse. And by the time, you know, and every day that goes by, you're cementing that into your brain, right? And it's really, it's unfortunate. And you're saying, you know, how this happens to people. I mean, in my opinion, our society is pretty broken, just in terms of what we learn in schools. Like, yeah, I mean, it's good to learn the fundamentals, like algebra and, like math and science and these things. But when you start to get into like advanced biochem 2, and you don't even teach things like how to set goals, how to have emotional intelligence, how to get along with other people. Like, these aren't mainstream things taught in the system. Like, and then it becomes all about, like, people just get into that, like, I just need to make as much money as possible.
Right.
And that's the system that we're in. And
and then they associate their worth to that too. You know, the more successful I am, or the harder I work, I'm more worthy.
That's right. And then they start to put themselves into a box, like, oh, I must not be worthy because I'm only making this amount of money, and I could never make that amount of money. That's right. Versus, again, that kind of, you know what? I haven't done it yet. Right. The yet is a great growth owner term. Like, you know what? I haven't done it yet. There's been this struggle, and I hit this obstacle, but what did I learn from it? All right, I'm failing, but I'm going to fail forward, and I'm going to get there. It just hasn't happened yet. And there's a huge difference when you have that attitude, because anybody, you know, I interview successful people all the time. I listen to tons of podcasts. I listen to, read tons of books. Like, any of these people that have, like, made it, you know, and there's a lot of different ways to, I won't even go into my definition of success, because and money don't go together. But if you look at somebody, you go, that's my idol, I want to be like that. I guarantee you that they didn't just, it wasn't just handed to them, right? They had to basically have this killer sort of, I'm going to get there, and they created their own system in one way or another to basically set their goals and to get there, and to just not take no for an answer, and to not stop, because that is what it takes. And we're in this society where it's going the opposite way, where more and more we can just hit a button and get anything we want. Yeah. Including ourselves in a vehicle. Sure. And that's killing our, that discipline of, like, being able to make a commitment to ourselves and follow through. And I feel bad, especially for the younger generation, because, you know, then they go see these people on social media that are have all hundreds of thousands of likes, and then you see them doing ads now, and you know they're making money. You're like, oh, I just want to do that. Like, but even those people, they had to build up to that. Yeah. And, while somebody's going to get lucky and they're going to make something that goes viral, but if you watch a lot of those people, if they haven't figured out the system and how to get people to really be engaged in what they're doing, then they'll just fall right back off. That happens all the time. But it's the people that have developed the system and said, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. This is what's working. This is what, you know, those are the ones that keep that momentum going. And that's what it takes. It takes hard work. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, just, yeah, like the influencer thing, like just content creation, it's not easy. I mean, I do it too, and it's not easy sometimes. I'm like, sitting here recording myself like 900 times. Now an hour and a half's gone by, and I'm like, oh my God, for
I mean,
one
right?
30-second video.
Social media, right, right. And so, and it's about like, and then what are you trying to get from it, right? It's like, okay, well, if you truly want this to be a source of income for you, like, okay, what's the long term? How's that going to work? Like, what is your goal? How are you going to try to do this? But, right. I've got two small boys. I got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want them. I was actually I went through a tough situation when I was a kid, and I was your typical fixed victim. By the time I went to college, I was actually suicidal. And so, and I feel like it's even harder now for kids that are, by the time they become a young adults, it's like what they've been trained to focus on and what they think is important, and the boxes that they put them in themselves are even smaller and narrower. And so like I'm on this mission to basically just try to spread this, like, hey, if you live this certain type of life, like if you understand universal principles, like the things that have been around since the beginning of time, they're going to be around until we destroy ourselves. Like they've proven themselves, things like do unto others, just basic things. And you live your life that way, and you base your actions off that, which then become your habits, which then become your life. Like you will be happy. But if you're just like grabbing, like, oh, that guy said something, or oh, that quote is interesting, or like, and there's so much coming at us in all these different directions. It's so hard to know what to focus on.
Totally
vying for our attention, and it's like, but you got to have that sort of base system. And one of my goals is to help revolutionize the educational system. That's a big goal, but I ain't but to start teaching those things we were talking about earlier. So by the time they do come young adults, it's like they got their heads screwed on right. They know what's important. They know what's actually going to make them happy. And yes, career and finances, it's one of your 5 cores. It's part of it, but it's not all of it. Yeah, you're good. So tell us more about, so are you doing coaching now?
Yes. So I run a coaching business, but also I had a podcast, or I have a podcast, I guess. Kind of put like a break on episodes right at the moment, but have a podcast too, doing the influencer content creation kind of thing. I have a lot of starting to get more into public speaking. I want to, I am a social butterfly at heart. I love being around people. I love just giving people my energy in a protective, like boundary setting way. But like, I love, I like being social. I love creating human connection. It's just like my thing. So I'm like, how can I do that now that we can start, being around people again? Like, how can we do that? And let's make it happen. I am a believer that anything that I put my mind to, I'm going to accomplish. If not, it's equivalent or something better. It's going to happen.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, and right. I mean, that's one of the cores is your relation. Like, I feel like we all have a certain degree of, we need other people and to feel complete, and we want to, and there's no better feeling, right, than helping somebody else. Like, good God. And that's another one that's not really ingrained into us growing up. It's all about me, like, how can I get ahead and stuff. And then it's not until later, I feel like, that people start to figure that one out. And for a lot of people, it's too late. And especially like if your whole life is just chasing, and even if, I took this course, it's called The Science of Well-Being. The name is the Yale Happiness course. Really interesting course.
That's cool.
About how we have these miswantings. And like our whole lives are kind of revolved around, if I only got this, then I'd be happy. But studies have actually shown and proven that when people get the things that they think that they want, then are they happy? No, maybe for a second, but then they reset. They reset their expectations. So they actually, this one study showed, I remember it said, all right, you're making this amount of money. Like, what amount of money do you think would make you happy? And then they followed up with people, and the people that actually got to that level, they said, okay, are you happy? And, sure enough, they all basically said, well, now my next goal is here. And it's good to be growing, and it's good to have goals, but you got to enjoy the ride too.
Yes.
And you can't just be chasing that carrot and forgetting about these other aspects.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, gratitude daily that's my whole spiel, is like, you have to be practicing gratitude. And in the moments, I learned this obviously through mentors of mine, but like in the moments where you're feeling, resistance or flustered or angry about something, it's like, or angry at someone, go straight into gratitude. Like whether you just start saying things out loud or writing it out, it's like, I'm grateful for my water bottle. I'm grateful for my boat. I'm grateful for the sky. Like just start reciting some things that you're grateful for. And I promise you, your energy will start to shift.
Huge. And they
100%.
talked about 100%. And so the science of well-being, the happiness course, that was one of the things, right? Where you've already hit it on almost all of them. The mindset was huge. We talked about miss wantings, relationships, being around other people, giving back. But that gratitude one, holy cow, is that big.
Yeah.
And people, and that's not even something like, so I have a morning mantra that I've memorized that I basically say to myself with all the key things that I know are important to me and that I'm working on in my life that I want to improve. And I actually have memorized it. So when I do it, I habit stack it. When I'm in the shower, I'm already showering, and then I do that along with I do my stretches. And at the very end of it, I have my gratitude list, and I say what I'm grateful for. And holy cow, when I come out of the shower, I'm just like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready.
Yeah.
Versus, oh man, today's gonna suck. I'm not gonna be, just thinking about all these negative thoughts. And but when you think about concentrating on what you're grateful for, it just automatically makes your life. It really is magical.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, my life's not so bad. And there's always somebody out there that's got things worse. And if you just focus on the things that you have going for you, those things will multiply. Because then
it's
again,
so true.
Your mindset starts to go, yeah, we got this.
Yeah.
Some good stuff here. We can get some more stuff versus, oh, I got nothing. My life sucks. And that's just going to go the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and, gratitude just brings us back to our presence, which, one of my, probably not verbatim here, but like one of my like greater mentors, like I always loved this whenever she would say it. She's like, we can have gratitude for the now because all you have is the now. She's like, but you can desire more, you can always desire more, but be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for everything that's going on right now because all you have is now. Literally snap your fingers, you could die. You only have right now. So if you can't be grateful and you can't appreciate the now, then you're always going to be chasing fear or happiness. You're always going to be in that. It's always going to be either fear driven or obviously we want it to happy and like joy driven, but like we don't want to be like externally looking for that all the time and like not ever appreciating or celebrating what we have learned up until now,
I love that you added the focusing on the now part, because that really is true. I think a lot of us will spend our whole lives just chasing. Yeah. Like that carrot, like we were talking about. And again, not to be confused with growth is important. You always want to be growing. You always want to have, but when you get to whatever it is you get to, then you say, okay, what's my new goal? And, during that process, you also have to stop and smell the roses and look around and not just have your head in the sand and be doing things that you're miserable at doing. And I mean, that's another part of like the core that I have for career and finance. Like you want to make sure whatever it is you are doing to make money, I enjoy, because otherwise, what are you doing? You have one life. You got to enjoy it. This is it. Like if you were to die tomorrow, are you going to be happy with the way things have gone? Or are you going to be like, God dang it, I blew it?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I always am trying to like look at the bigger picture. I'm like, there's always someone who can pay you. There's always someone that's going to be able to pay you. Unless you literally just like didn't do anything, you just gave up, there is someone who can pay you. And whether it's the same amount or maybe, there's people that have taken pay cuts to just live a healthier, more flexible life, and all we really need is to be able to like survive, right? We want to thrive and we want to be like up here thriving and living our best life. But like your basic essentials, like your bills, your home, your food, right? After that, like, so find the people that'll pay for your basic essential needs and then go cultivate your own happiness.
And in a way, right. So the other side of this social dilemma that we're in, that we were talking about earlier, is the fact that there are more opportunities than ever to be able to make money.
Yeah, so many.
Be your own boss. Right?
Yeah.
We're very fortunate to be in a situation, but like that. But yeah, I 100% agree. Like there's always something. There's always a path that you can take. So right.
Totally.
It's not the answer. So as we're wrapping up here, I like to talk about obviously habits is a big part of what I'm doing, gamifying your habits. So let me just give you an example, and let me ask you if there's a habit that you've developed in your life, like maybe you didn't used to have it, but along the way you develop this habit, and it's really propelling your momentum. It's helping you to get to where you know you want to head to. And then the follow-up would be, is there a way that you have kind of gamified that? And when I say gamify, like kind of been able to trick your brain into taking that action, that underlying action for that habit long enough to where then it becomes habit?
Yeah. So when I first, again, probably like early 2018, I read the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And he teaches this whole lifesavers concept. I literally, maybe not every day, but I have done this. I've practiced this concept since 2018.
Okay.
I was never doing that stuff. Meditation, sitting in silence, breath work, affirmations, visualizing. Exercise was maybe the only thing, but even my perspective on exercise is so different now. Obviously, like you read my bio, like I've overcome some body image stuff. I had some weight issues. Like there was just like a lot of things, right? So exercise to me has a completely different meaning now than it did 5 years ago. It's about it's not just exercise. Everything that we do in life is about feeling good. If it doesn't feel good, it's not in alignment with your higher self. It's not in alignment with what you're wanting to do, who you're wanting to become, what you want to have in life. So anything that doesn't feel good, how can you let it go? I also read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. Everyone may think it's like a home organization. No, it goes into like the deepest parts of your soul. Let go of behavioral patterns, limiting beliefs, all the things that just do not serve you and don't make you feel good. So back to your question though, I have incorporated all these things, the meditation, the journaling, all of it, like I said, almost every single day since 2018. So for 4 years now, this has become a habit. And I want to say it was a few months in that I actually was like, this just feels good. And the bigger picture is I never had a relationship with self, which I identify now as my relationship with source, creator, God, universe, whatever. And by me doing this, by me tuning inwards and giving myself, I wake up every day and I practice the miracle morning. Like, don't talk to my phone is on do not disturb for even half the day. Like, this is my me time. And it's important that I pour into myself first so that I can show it better for the world. And so on the bigger picture of things, the tricking me into staying in these habits was like, I actually found myself. I found God. I found source. I found creator. Like, I found something that I can be like, wow, I actually I believe in something now. And so having that, and again, it feels so good. Freaking love yourself. Like, and not in a conceited, like, I know people have so many misinterpretations about self-love, but like, when you are so full of love, you are like a fucking Care Bear. Like, you just want to like shoot sunbeams and hearts from your body. Like, that's where I feel. And I have never felt that way. This like sensation, it's just euphoric, really. So it's not a trick. It's like, I found something that I never had experienced before. And to not have that, I don't know what life would feel like again.
I love that. Yeah, that's my first God gamification. But you know what? It is a way to gamify it, right? I mean, the way I use the term, it doesn't necessarily have to do with, the traditional like video games and tech,
Right.
but more it does tie to behavioral science, and that getting yourself to take an action that you maybe wouldn't have done otherwise. And if you finding that for you was a way that helped push you over the edge and helped you to keep taking these actions that are making you feel euphoric in these ways, then good on you.
Yeah, feels great.
Well, Kelly, this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I had such a blast, both halves of the conversation. The second half is obviously my passion, and then the first half is not my guilty pleasure. It's my pleasure.
It's your pleasure.
We had some fun. We had some fun talking about that stuff. Let's keep in touch. And
Absolutely.
yeah, if you have anybody, I'd love to get some more of your peeps on the show. I might hit you up and for some referrals, because
totally.
Conversations are so fun. Yeah, let's keep in touch, and thank you so much. And do you want to end with something in terms of like where people can find you, or?
Yeah, I mean, would love for y'all to hit the follow button, Chase Life with Kelly. You can find everything that you need to know about me there. I run a whole mindset reprogramming subconscious program called Goddess Magic, and so that's my signature thing if anyone has any interest. But yeah, my website's on my link tree and my bio and my Instagram too. So I have a Facebook group that's free. You know, I post in there. It's accountability. It helps you to like expand your mind. So it's just a support group. So it's good.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we will be in touch soon. Thanks, Kelly.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
That's it for the 5 Core Life. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button on this video and pound that subscribe button so you get notified when new episodes drop. Also, please fill out the free 5 Core Life Evaluator quiz. It's a great way to get a baseline of where you are in the 5 cores and which of the 5 cores you need support. In addition, you'll get some actionable advice that you can apply and start improving your life in the areas that you need it most. That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life Podcast. Have a wonderful day.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.